the rational tariff is quite a wide subject, right? Rational in the English meaning tells you the reason. A tariff that you can provide reasons. Why and how. You ask these two questions. Why you did this and how that you have arrived into this tariff. If the person who set the tariff can answer these two questions, then you can say this is a reasonable or rational tariff. Now the question comes, what are the questions being asked and who are asking these questions? Should it be rational to everybody? Should it be rational to Sri Lankan tariff? Should it be rational to British? Should it be rational to everybody in the world? Or is it only for the Sri Lankans? Should it be rational for people who are not paying electricity bills, who doesn't have electricity? Is it rational? So where this rationality ends? Where it begins and ends? So in order to answer this question, if you look at the context of rationality, mostly you have to say that rationality is for the stakeholders. Then the question comes, who are the stakeholders? Generally we identify 4 stakeholders. That is the consumers, utility, economy and the environment. So if the questions raised by the consumers, utilities, economy and the environment can reasonably answer, then we can call that particular tariff a rational tariff. So now it comes the further question, what sort of questions these guys ask? What are the aspirations of these 4 entities in developing a tariff? So in the general context, probably the customer will ask for a lower tariff, lower price to pay. The utility will come to say, we want a manageable and a tariff that they can sustain, or profitable tariff probably. Then the economy will ask an economically beneficial, in the macroeconomic context, a tariff that promotes development, national development. And the environment will ask for a tariff which protects and preserves the environment. So these are probably the aspiration of these 4 stakeholders. Now when you look at this myriad of aspiration, what you see is probably little bit of conflicts in these areas. Whether all these aspirations can be achieved to its maximum level that the stakeholders expect, or whether there is a give and take between these complex aspects. So that is where this tariff setting business comes a little bit complicated. How to manage and balance these requirements or these aspirations. So in doing that, what we generally come across in such wide public problems, generally what we do is we set up a policy, what we call a national policy, the top level policy. Thereby we recognize these aspirations to the required depths. And we declare that as a national policy. We never touch that. Everything will be done under the guidance and the control and this governance of the national policy. So in Sri Lanka, we are very fortunate that we have achieved that state. We have an energy policy, national energy policy. So the national energy policy should be our paramount document, primary document. So everything related to energy should be done by looking at the national policy. So national policy clearly guides us for a particular kind of a tariff, what we call the cost reflective tariff. Cost reflective tariff. Then it comes a question, what do we mean by cost reflective? Up to which depth it is going to be cost reflective? So we know as electrical engineers, electricity tariff, electricity cost is location dependent, and the time dependent. For a particular moment, for a particular point, there is a price, there is a cost. Then it comes a question, are we going to give door to door, household to household, from this house to the other house, are we going to change the tariff? And from minute to minute, are we going to change the tariff? So there what we do is we come to a averaging context and say, no, we are not going to do that. This particular area, this particular lane will have a particular tariff. Or this particular town will have a particular tariff. Or this particular province will have a particular tariff. Or probably the entire country will have a particular tariff. So there we are going to average out our location-specific nature of energy or electricity. Similarly, in the time domain also we do certain averaging. Whether it's minute to minute, 15 minute to 15, hourly tariff, or time slots, time of use tariff, or daily tariff, or a monthly tariff, or an annual tariff. So some sort of an average in the time domain also got to be done. So these are depending on the way how you do the metering, with how well that you can do administration, how well you can do your measurements. All these limitations will come into determining your stamp of averaging. So once you determine your geographic stamp and a time stamp, then based on those averaging, you will be deriving a tariff. Then there's another interesting question as far as this rationalism is concerned. There's another question: what are the costs that we do? What do you mean by cost? It is merely the cost, or is it a prudent cost? If a utility incurs a cost which is not justified, it's unfair cost, are we going to include that also? Or is it prudent cost? Or even further, the external cost, environmental cost, are we going to include them in this? So cost is also a little bit of a wider topic. So anyhow, once you look at this the generality of cost, generality of cost reflectivity, we have to identify exactly how we are going to set up this cost reflectivity. So there where the Electricity Act and the subsidy documents regulations come into play. So we are pretty fortunate we got this Electricity Act which clearly set up our vectors or directives in setting up the tariff. So the second document is also been set. Then the tertiary document, tariff methodologies and the tariff regulations are also been set. So now we as consumers, we clearly know what do we mean by cost? What are the costs that we are going to incorporate into our tariff? And what is our averaging context, both geographical and time? And exactly what is the methodology by which we come into working out the tariff? So in that context, according to my feeling, unlike our previous tariff, presently we have a fairly rational tariff as far as the documentation and the tariff methodology are concerned. Of course, it's a question how rational the tariff what we have to be, what we practically have, being the fact that this particular tariff has demonstrated deviations from the methodology, said methodology and the said policies. So given the deviation, it's yet a question, yet a field of study to identify how rational they are. But anyhow, our tariff methodology, our Electricity Act and the National Energy Policy, when read together, gives a fairly rational context. Tariff is not a luxury. Rational tariff is recognition of democracy and the social rights and human rights of people.